the moment you're conceived, you've brought forward anything in past lives you haven't dealt with. And you also brought forth your lineage stuff that they hadn't dealt with. And almost all of that's emotion.
Yeah.
That created a dis-ease or a dysfunction. And so emotions sit in very specific parts of the body. They sit in very specific organ systems, and they form, as you know, density. And density forms a blockage, and blockage starts a stagnation. And when your body isn't stagnant, it's like stagnant water that just gets worse by day. You're asking for it. And so to me, it's important that you have a clean path of energy running through your body, so your body is constantly energized, constantly being reborn, constantly being repaired.
Welcome back to Reconditioned with me, Lauren Vaknin. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so excited for you to hear today's episode with Rob Wergin, who I had the pleasure of meeting when we were speaking at the Heal event at Gaia. And as I say to him on this episode, I think I've said it to him before as well, that, there were some big names there, some people who, are so well known in the wellness and spirituality worlds, and, people who people in the audience had traveled, thousands of miles to come and see, people who have been speaking for Gaia for many years. And, many of them were incredible, not taking anything away from them. But Rob Wergin was the one that left me feeling just speechless. He was the one who, for me, was just the most powerful, the most, it was like witnessing something magical, watching him do his, it wasn't a talk, it was a healing event, and having the privilege of having him do some healing on me before my talk. It was just magnificent, and I don't have enough words to describe what he did to me. I remember coming out and just messaging all my friends and being like, you don't even understand what Rob Wergin is about. He's unbelievable. And so they were all so excited about it, and they were like, where can we see him? And then he decided that he's coming to London. So by the time you hear this, he would have been here already, and I would have been at his event. So I will have to get back to you on just how amazing I know it's going to be. And I will speak about that on the podcast after it's happened. But in this episode, my intention for this episode was really to, Rob is one of these true healers that has the ability to heal people of anything at any point. And I think for me, the purpose of an episode like this is to remind people that of your power to heal, your ability to heal, that anyone can heal from anything. That is Rob's belief. That's what he speaks about in this episode. And, when I think about what my intention has always been for this podcast, it has always been about showing people the route forward, the way forward to heal. And this is one of those episodes that removes all the noise of you need to do this, you need to do that, take this supplement and do this test. None of that. Just you can heal. You are a cosmic being who's chosen to live a human life. And as a result of being that cosmic being, you can heal the human body. And you can choose to live in a healed body. And so my intention with bringing this episode to you really is to show you, without all the frills and noise and nonsense about all the things you have to do, you actually just have to be and have faith. And so I know that you're going to enjoy this episode, especially if you are on a healing journey of any kind. This episode is going to give you that faith and that drive and that motivation and that belief to just keep that faith up and to keep going, and that there is an opportunity for you to heal right now. So all the information about Rob will be in the show notes as usual. And of course, as usual, I'm going to ask that if you enjoy this episode, if it has inspired you, motivated you, made you feel anything, and you think that it could benefit someone else, please share it, and please subscribe to the podcast, because the more people that subscribe, the more people see this podcast, and therefore the more people can heal. And I guess that's your way of paying it forward to me if you've received anything or gained anything from listening to my podcasts. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. If you've chosen to listen to this podcast, I probably don't need to tell you about the importance of connecting with the Earth's electromagnetic field daily, a lot, if we want to optimize health. Spending more time grounding, i.e. barefoot on the earth, actually helps the healing process and boosts immune function. But the reality is that most of us just aren't outdoors enough to get the full benefits of connecting with the natural frequencies of the earth. Even our footwear blocks this connection. So what do? Well, enter earthing sheets. I have an earthing sheet in my bed from Roland Earthing, and I've not only noticed an improvement in my sleep quality, yay, but also an improvement in overall vitality. By sleeping on an earthing sheet, you restore the electrical connection to the earth that you miss out on by not being on the earth enough during sleep, replicating being grounded in nature. And it works best this way because our bodies repair while we sleep, and we're there for ages. So really, this is the most valuable time to maximize efficiency of your earthing practice. The sheets are made from organic cotton and they just go under your bed sheet. And not just that, Roland Earthing donates 1% of all sales to Farmers Footprint, Zach Bush's amazing charitable organization, which really means a lot to me. Earthing sheets are also said to be really great for children with sleep issues and cognitive challenges. So all in all, I couldn't recommend these earthing sheets enough. And you can get a 5% discount by visiting rolandearthing.co.uk. That's ROWLAND earthing.co.uk. And use the code Lauren5 to get a great 5% discount off your first order. Rob Wergin is a healer with an innate gift for channeling divine healing light and teachings. Featured in the acclaimed documentary Heal, Wergin has demonstrated his profound healing abilities since childhood, when he began intuitively helping animals. Personal challenges throughout his life deepened his understanding of unconditional love and compassion. A divine intervention in 2003 catalyzed Rob's commitment to healing. Today, he offers retreats, small group healing circles, master classes, and tools that foster significant physical, emotional, and spiritual transformations. His work has positively impacted over 400,000 people worldwide, serving as a conduit for divine energy and guidance. So, Rob, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So good to have you here. Before we get into the good stuff, what have you done today to support your wellness?
I always start my day with a prayer of gratitude. And so I just start thinking of things I'm grateful for, and I just let it flow. And it's usually the same topics, but it's in a different order, or, kind of depending how I'm feeling. Then I do nice protein shakes, and I eat pretty healthy. I have to, so.
Yeah, I noticed that. So to give context to everyone, we met when we were both speaking at the Heal conference at Gaia. And because I was going to mention what you said about eating, but we'll go back a bit further. Through, there were some big names there, some people who have been speaking at Gaia for many years. And, I was excited to meet so many people. But what I came away with from that event was your power, your healing abilities, how you transformed the room into something completely different. I was more blown away by you than anyone else throughout that whole event. And it was quite extraordinary to witness it. And you also, I was fortunate enough that before my talk, I was in some pain and you gave me some healing, and that got me through the event. But afterwards, you were like, we were going for dinner and you were like, I need meat. We need to go and find meat. So does it affect you? Does it affect your energy? And you find that if you eat more healthily, then that helps you kind of be a cleaner vessel for what's coming through?
I have a very restrictive diet, so I don't drink any alcohol. I don't take any drugs. I'm allergic to garlic, and I'm just very careful. And I tested my blood years ago, and I'm A positive, which, according to Eat Right for Your Type, I should be a vegetarian type person,
Same.
right? And I tried that, and I found myself going down the slope pretty fast.
Yeah,
And
same.
I realized that I needed a lot of protein
Mm.
to sustain myself. And, I like steak, I like meat, so I don't really like fish. So I had a lot of meat, and, you know, it's what I have to do to do my work
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
lot
I
of
saw
countries.
kind of your energy, deplete as you were giving to others. So let's go back because I think it's always really important to give context to what people do. And your story is quite extraordinary. Can you take us through how this all began for you? Because you haven't been doing this your whole life. Well, you kind of have, but if you
It's,
could take
it's,
us through the story.
I was raised as in a really strong Christian family. And so we were taught to pray just before we were taught to talk, I think. And my parents were overly religious. And but that's I adopted what they told us. And what I found as a child is I always loved animals. And I even as a child I wanted to be a veterinarian, a little kid. And then I found myself found myself attracting animals to me, and they would be hurt. And I would look at them and they'd look right in my eyes. It was the weirdest thing. They'd look right at me and almost to say, please help me.
Mm.
And I would, as a little boy, like 5 years old, I just, put my hands in a prayer and look up and say, God, would you please help this bird or whatever it was? And then I'd feel all this energy like load in my body, and I would just reach over and the animal would let me touch it, whether it was a bird or a snake or a deer, or, I mean, it didn't matter. I'd feel all this energy rush through me, and the animal would shake, and then it would walk away. It was fine. And I would say, thank you, God. You know, and that was the good news. But it scared my parents because being so religious, they were suspicious of where my quote power was coming from. And they really believed in their hearts that it was the devil, which made no sense to me. And I would, even at 5 or 6, I would argue with them that if it was the devil, then why wouldn't the rabbit explode? Or something. Why is it always something good? And I'm asking God and something good's happening. How is that the devil? And they would say the devil's tricking you. So
Mm.
anyway, so they basically did an exorcism on me when I was 7 years old. And I was told never to cross that line again. And of course I did. I did for a couple weeks maybe. But I had an older brother who loved getting me in trouble. So very soon I forgot that I ever did that. But I still loved animals. And I became a very successful businessman. I made lots of money and I was very materialistic. I thought money was power. I didn't believe in anything. I didn't go to church anymore. I thought spiritual healing was a bunch of hooey. And, and I just thought that's the way I was. And then at age 55, so 21 years ago, I lost everything. I mean, I literally had everything stripped from me in one day. All my money, all my possessions, all my reputation, everything. And I realized now that was necessary, and it was a gift because I'd been ignoring all the signs and signals that I should start doing something else, but I didn't. So they smacked me one, and everything changed in February 2003. So it's been almost 21 years now that I've been doing this work, and I was never trained. I didn't go to a class. I didn't read a book. I was just told to remember what I did as a child. And at that moment, I had no idea what that was. I'd forgotten. And then people just started knocking on my door and showing up at my house. And it was crazy. I mean, I could go on for hours about all the things that happened that absolutely would make no sense, but it made sense to me because they were showing me that it was all real. And, that was in 2003. And here we are now. And I worked on so many people, and to me, it was as exciting to work with you at Gaia as it would be with anybody else. I find great exhilaration in watching people change in front of me. And I know it's not me, but I'm like a little boy in a magic store playing with all the magic tricks, to make things happen. So I hope I can do this for a really long time, and I know I will.
So when you were in this kind of everything got taken from you, I'm guessing rock bottom moment, what was life like at that point? Like how quickly did that turn around? When you say they spoke to you, how did that, can you go into that? Because I know so many people that I work with and so many people that listen to this podcast are here because they're experiencing their own rock bottom moments and looking, understanding that maybe it's happened for a reason. How did that play out for you?
Because I'm stubborn, I think it took me like 3.5 years. Because I kept trying to get better. I kept trying to fix it, because I was a corporate guy, I knew how to fix things. And I just kept sinking deeper and deeper. I mean, I started taking painkillers. I started drinking a lot. I started going to a lot of therapy. Nothing was helping. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I just finally decided that enough was enough. And, I took a bunch of pills and tried to kill myself. And luckily, and in the process of that, I started hearing voices, which of course my mind said, you're crazy. You're hearing, now you think you're hearing God talk to you. And it was God. And that's how it happened. It wasn't a quick turnaround. But what I say now to people all the time is your biggest challenge, your most painful challenge always has the greatest gift on the other side of it, right? And so look at the challenges, the gift is coming. It's like Christmas Eve. If you just believe that you're going to have a breakthrough and you believe and have faith, Christmas Day will come and you'll have the biggest gift you've ever had. And that's what happened to me. I mean, I would not be doing this work had that not happened. And I've had a lot more other challenges in my life since then. Even as a healer, I've had a lot of challenges. I've had some pretty powerful sickness. I had a stroke a few years ago. I've had people come after me for being a cult leader and all those kinds of things. And all those things took me to the other side, which has been so positive and so amazing. So that's one of my common sermons is, if you're feeling really down and out and things are really tough, take a breath, ask for help from the divine, and push through it, because on the other side, it's like a big gift waiting for you. Always, always.
I agree.
It's the same with you,
When I was at the Heal conference at Gaia in Colorado a few months ago, I took with me a jar of Wise Earth adaptogenic honey that I'd been using for an autoimmune trigger, and I left it on the snack table for people to try. On the second day, there was a group of producers and tech people standing around the table looking in awe about something, so I went over. Turns out they'd tried the honey. One of them said, "What the hell is in this stuff? I feel awake and alive for the first time in ages, and I only just took a half spoon 5 minutes ago." Then Kelly Noonan Gores of the Heal documentary, who was hosting the event, was like, "Give me some, I need a pick-me-up." This was at the end of a very long, amazing, but draining weekend. She took a half spoon and instantly felt revitalized for the rest of the day. Within minutes, all the incredible speakers, Gaia directors, engineers, everyone was taking this honey, and it was like the energy in the room up-leveled in a way I've never seen. I'm telling you the story exactly as it happened, which is why I'm bringing you this here on Reconditioned. Wise Earth adaptogenic honey was created in response to founder Daniel losing his sister to cancer. It uses traditional Chinese medicine and cutting-edge extraction technology to create a potent adaptogenic honey designed to combat the current leading health issue, chronic inflammation, which is how everything starts. It's helped people from all over the world combat challenges from lack of energy to digestive issues to hormonal imbalances and a range of chronic illnesses. It uses the absolute best quality honey as a carrier of adaptogens such as reishi, chaga, and cordyceps to enhance both bioavailability and taste, ensuring maximum potency and effectiveness. Mix it into your coffee, whack it in your smoothie, or just take it neat on a spoon. You only need a little bit a day for the effects to work. And as I've seen from those around me and my own experience, those effects are huge. So visit wiseearth.uk, that's WYSE, earth.uk for UK or .com for US, and use code Lauren10 for a 10% discount.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always find that I think it's for everyone. No one just kind of starts working with me because, things are good and they just,
Right.
would like them to be a bit better.
Right.
It's always a rock bottom, an energetic death, an illness, a breakup, a divorce, whatever it is. Um, I'm wondering how it started happening then. Was it kind of a memory of what you'd suppressed from being a child? Or, like, how did it come to you?
They just told me to be paid. First, they told me to go to Sedona. So I went, and I didn't know what Sedona was. I had no idea. I went to Sedona, and all these magical, mystical things happened. I saw these angels, and I met these people, and it just magic happened for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, what's happening? And of course, at this point in my life, I was in my 50s, and my parents were gone, and my kids thought I was nuts because of what they'd seen me go through. And my friends wouldn't even talk to me because they thought I was this crazy person. And so I was alone and with nobody to talk to, which was probably good because I would have been talked out of it maybe. So I just had to go within and notice what was happening. And every moment that I started to have doubt, I remembered saying to God, you know, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. If you save my life, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. And I kept remembering that. So when I would have these moments, I'd go, okay, God's asking me to do this. It sounds crazy, but I'm going to do it. And, then people started coming to my house, and I had no idea. I mean, I didn't have any clue. And they would say, just ask them to lay down and put your hands on their head and take a deep breath because it's not you anyway, it's us. And, really the hardest thing for me was to learn to get out of the way. Because being a corporate guy, I always was in charge. I always thought it out, figured it out, and did it. And now I was having to just completely surrender and let go and trust. And that's probably the hardest thing that I had to do was just that, which sounds easy. But, when somebody's laying in front of you that's dying of cancer, you want to try to figure out how you can fix them. And, God already has a plan. And if you just get out of the way and let God do the work, it's amazing. And, I say the word God, I use the word divine. I don't bring religion into my work. I don't care if you're religious or not. This is not I don't have a lot of religious artifacts in my house. I want to be as neutral as possible. I say I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. I'm like ruthless spiritual. And that's me, and that's how it's turned out.
How do you feel about the church now and about religion generally based on your upbringing and then kind of what you've seen?
I think it's wrong. I think it's a story that's not true. I think parts of it are true. But I've had enough direct contact with, the big guns of religion, Jesus and Mary and God and all those that work with me that and I've been told several things over the years. I think it's a practice based on fear, not based on faith. The way the prayer was changed from being grateful for what is now to I'm asking for help. So yeah, you have to do the right thing to get help when help's already there now if you just ask for help now. So there's a lot of things that have shown me that it's, it maybe some of it's true, but some of it's not, in my opinion. And
Mm.
I've been chased down by the church. I mean, I found people in churches come to me saying they were sick and then attack me when they get in the room with me for for being this bad person. I'm like, you know what? That's your opinion, but I can show you all the people I've helped. So,
Mm.
it's not easy. It's it's more difficult than I thought it would be,
Mm.
energetically and just emotionally, and having to put up with the people that come after you, which I think is silly. They don't go after their doctors, they
Mm.
so
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have that with the church, but I have that in a similar way with the things that I speak
Yeah.
about, by the kind of the pharmaceutical world. So I kind of know the feeling. Um, I'm really interested to know when all that happened, you said people started knocking at your door. What was that first person? Like, how did you work on that person? What did that look like?
I was scared to death. Um, so what happened when I came back from Sedona, I was told by, I just call it the voice. I was told by the voice to print some business cards and to put them up on a public place. And I resisted that, but I did it. But now I know that was my way of proclaiming to the universe that I was a healer,
Mm-hmm.
which you need to do, right? I, I have free will, so I'm making a proclamation. I am a healer. And so I stuck these cards up at a health food store, scared to death, because I really didn't want anybody to call me because I had no idea what I'd do if I did. And I mean, within minutes, this woman called me and she said, "Hi, may I speak to Rob?" And I said, "This is Rob." And she said, "Hi, Rob, I'd like to make an appointment." And I said, "For what?" Because I hadn't. And then she said, "For a healing. Your assistant told me I could come today." And I thought, I don't have an assistant. And I said, "What's your name?" And she wouldn't tell me. She said, "I've been to healers who ask me questions and then they do research and they act like they know something, but they just looked me up. So I'm not going to tell you my name. And your assistant told me I didn't have to pay you and that I could come today." I was like, "I'm booked. I'm sorry." Because I didn't know what to do. I mean, I didn't know what to do. And so I made an appointment with this woman like 3 days later. I found an old massage table at a garage sale. I made a little healing room in my house, and lit some candles. And she came to my house and I stuck out my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Rob." And she said, "Oh, nice try. I'm not going to tell you my name." And then she said, "You must have done this a long time because you have an assistant." And I said, "No, you're actually the first person I've ever worked on." And she thought that was very funny, but it was the truth. And so I took her back in my healing room and I asked her to lay on my massage table. And I said, "Close your eyes and take a deep breath." And they said, "Just put your hands around her head." I said, "Okay." I had no clue if anything was going to happen or not. And, some spirit showed up. Her father, who had just recently passed, showed up. An old boyfriend showed up. A dog showed up. All these beings showed up. And I thought I was mad. I thought still I was like, what is happening here? But I started asking questions. And I was told that I had the right to ask a question, any question I wanted, and they would tell me. And so I just started in my mind asking questions of the beings that I was working with. What's going on? Why is this person here? And I got all this information. And, she had been through this really horrible experience. And at the end of the session, she looked like a different person. And then like 5 minutes later, somebody else called, and then somebody else called, and then somebody else called. And I was in Los Angeles at the time. And, the people that were calling were 50 miles apart from each other, but they'd all seen the same assistant. And I went to the health food store and noticed that all of my cards were still there. So, things like that kept happening that were confirmation to me that all this was not my imagination. And so that was really helpful because I really didn't understand. And I had no idea what healing was about. I had no idea what the human body was, the energy field, all the things I work with now. And I started reading books and they told me to stop. They said, "You already know all this stuff. You've always been a healer. You already know everything there is to know. Just get out of the way and ask to remember, and we'll help you remember everything you already know." And of course, that was easier said than done, get out of the way. But, it just kept happening more and more. And yeah, I worked in garages, I worked in basements, I worked in churches, I worked in parking lots. I mean, the first 3 or 4 years I did this, I probably made less than $600 a month. And I filed bankruptcy. I sold everything I had. I was committed to doing this work. It didn't matter to me about anything. I had an old car. You could see the ground because it was all rusted out, and I really just kept going because I could see the value in it and I knew I would be taken care of. And, so 20 years later, here we are. So,
What sort of transformations were you seeing in people that were giving you that kind of clarification?
well, for example, the first lady was extremely depressed and extremely overweight because her fiance had killed himself
Mm.
10 years before. And he came into the room and told me that he actually didn't kill himself and explained what actually happened. And that the police and everybody believed that he'd committed suicide and he was actually murdered. And I got all this information about it. And, all for these 10 years, she'd been blaming herself for saying something wrong or doing something wrong, or, can you imagine? And I mean, her body transformed. I mean, everything changed, because she got the truth.
Mm.
I've seen people get up out of wheelchairs. I've seen, in the movie, when I did the movie, they filmed me for 3 days and they cut almost all of it out of the movie because they thought people would think it was fake,
That's the Heal documentary.
Yeah, the Heal documentary. And there was this one woman there whose name was Sarah, and she had advanced PLS, which is a form of ALS. She couldn't walk, she could barely talk. We brought her into the film set and I asked her, I said, what do you want to do? What's the one thing you're wishing for, you're dreaming about? And we were in Malibu and she said, I would just love to walk barefoot down the sand and stick my feet in the ocean. And 3 days later, they filmed her doing that.
Wow.
And we were all crying. Everybody on the set was bawling. And, it was so beautiful. And they cut that out of the movie because they thought people would think it was fake. Well, after a few years, I finally convinced them to give me that piece of film. So it's actually on my website. You can watch it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But so, I mean, I've seen everything. And to me, there's nothing that's untouchable. Everything is possible. I've seen people in hospice that are an inch away from dying that didn't die. But I've also seen people who had no faith and no faith and no will and just believed the story that they were going to die. And so they did. So I've learned how powerful we are, just like you have in your own healing. We're in charge. We take charge and have faith and have patience. Anything's possible.
Some of you may remember that towards the end of 2024, I had a bit of an inflammatory flare-up. Now, having been in remission for so long, it was quite challenging. And even with all my tools and the best practitioners at my fingertips, it wasn't shifting. And there were many reasons for that, but a friend told me about the energy enhancement system that has taken off like crazy in the States, but it had just opened in the UK. And I really was trying everything I could to heal, so I went to check it out. Honestly, safe to say, I've never looked back. And if you're suffering with anything from autoimmune conditions to mental health challenges to cancer, even if your pet is unwell, please stick with me for 60 seconds while I tell you what this incredible system of healing is. So EES creates special energy fields using scalar waves and biophotons that allow your body to return to a place of homeostasis and balance, because that's the frequency our bodies should be vibrating at when in a state of wholeness. These fields help to balance and optimize your body's natural processes, promoting healing and overall well-being. I've personally now had 2 daytime sessions and have also stayed overnight twice, giving my body 11 hours of recharging within the scalar waves. And all I can say, and my friends who I sent say the same, is I've never fallen into a deeper meditation or a more relaxed state than when I'm in there, showing me that it's absolutely doing something with my energy field, thereby promoting wellness. The energy enhancement system promotes the body's ability to detox, reduce inflammation, reduce pain, improve circulation, improve sleep quality, improve immune function, it regenerates cells, and it balances the right and left hemispheres of the brain, which is why we go into such deep meditation when we're in there. And that's just the beginning. Guys, the body is designed to heal from everything and anything. And when it's synchronizing with the healthy, energetic environment generated by the system, it can. They're based in London. I cannot recommend it enough. And you can get 18% off any length session by using code Reconditioned18 when booking. That's Reconditioned18. Just visit www.energyenhancementcenter.co.uk to book, or you can head to the show notes for all the links. I cannot wait to hear your success stories. And please note, EES do not make any medical claims. So you believe that anyone can heal from anything? Because I always have this question, I guess this like question mark over the top of my head. The deeper I go into my spiritual practice, there's always this element of the divine does have a plan. There is a plan, there is why, quote unquote, bad things happen to us, because it's leading us to something. Where does that plan come into place, where are there some people that you can't heal because it is in their destiny to pass at that time, or to suffer, or to go through this pain, or whatever it might be?
See, I think that what I know is that we are loved unconditionally by the universe and by God. Unconditional love. And we have free will. So we get to do whatever we want, and we're loved no matter what. Some people die because they take on somebody else's opinion. Like if I told you that you had 90 days to live and you believed me as a healer, I guarantee you die before 90 days.
Mm.
And so I think it's a test of faith. It's a test of trust. And it's a test of knowing that you are in charge of your own destiny. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can have a destiny. I'm, people disagree with me on this all the time, but it's just my opinion. But it's like that plant behind you that has those branches that all lead up. Your life is starting at the bottom branch, and each time you get to a Y, you get to go right or go left or go straight up. And so your destiny is to get to the top of the branch, and the top of the branch might mean learning the lesson of faith, or not learning the lesson of faith, or not learning the lesson of trust. And then you get to drop down and try it again. It's kind of like falling off the swing and getting back on it again. So, I've seen enough people, obviously, that I see patterns with people. I see a lot of people that they completely are rid. There's no cancer in their body. And the cancer was created by emotions and lifestyle and thoughts and actions and all those things. And you take out the cancer and they immediately go back to exactly how they were before. And the cancer comes back and they die. Well, that was their free will and that was their destiny, right? Mm. But then there are people that are cancer free, and then their life changes, their vision changes, their spiritual life changes, everything changes, and they're healthy and fine. So I think there's kind of a crossroads where you get to decide which way you're going to go. Mm. And a lot of times people just buy into what the doctor tells them, and that's exactly what happens. Or they walk around talking about my cancer, my chemo, my sickness, my radiation, my funeral. Like, you got it.
Yeah, I say that all the time. It's the, first thing I say to people when they're telling me about, when they first start working with me and they start telling me about, my illness, and they're like, because of my arthritis. And I say, no, not your arthritis. As soon as you claim it as yours, it owns you, it defines you, it's part of you, you're making a choice to keep it. Yep. Yeah, so I love that.
I've started using the word opinion more. So you go to the doctor and, the doctor might say, you need a second opinion. Well, the first diagnosis was also an opinion. Mm-hmm. It's just an opinion. It's not, it's that person's opinion. And so you get to have your own opinion, right? And your own opinion, this, but your own opinion is I'm going to be fine, right? Or I'm going to die. That's your opinion. You get to choose, but the opinion from a professional is simply their view based on what they've been trained to view, and it's their opinion, but it doesn't mean you have to own it. And
Right.
most people own it. And that's where the trouble begins, right?
Yeah, I loved that in your during your session at Gaia when you said it's not a diagnosis, it's an opinion, and people really that really resonated for a lot of people, including myself, obviously, because that's how I've always felt. But I wonder, you have this gift that is quite evident, and you literally heard the voices, and you get told what to do. For people, I mean, I do believe that everyone is that powerful that we can all access that level of divinity, but some people have easier access to it for whatever reason. And I want to get onto that. And I also want to get onto the power of emotions. But before we do, how can people get them if they're not someone that's hearing all the voices? How can the average person who's listening to this now, who believes and has faith, but doesn't have that level of connection, but wants to heal from something chronic, how can they get that level of belief and faith? How can that show up for them?
Well, I always ask this question, which almost everybody answers yes to, right? Do you believe in the parking angel? Right? And almost everybody goes, yes. I'm like, okay, so what's the difference?
Mm.
You absolutely believe that when you turn the corner, there's going to be a parking place there.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you use the same energy to believe that when you turn the corner, you're going to be healthy? And start paying attention. Don't look forward. Don't set yourself up with an expectation of a miracle that's only going to disappoint you. Live each day in the moment of gratitude and pay attention to what's happening instead of saying, well, go to the calendar and February 26th, I'm going to be free. And then you just measure each day, and on February 26th, you're disappointed, you lose your faith because you set yourself up. So just understand that it's a process. And if you do it day by day with gratitude and make it fun, like the parking angel, because it's the same thing. And, I understand that question and what happens, why I like to do groups, and what you'll see, when I see you is that there's going to be a whole lot of people. A third of them are going to be skeptics. Or some of them are going to be the spouse that got drug along because even though they didn't want to go, right? And I usually ask how many people are skeptics, just because it's kind of fun. And then often I'll bring a skeptic up to the front and work on them for 2 minutes and ask them if they're still a skeptic. Does your back still hurt? Whatever it is. And so I know that God gives us all these proof. Like you're proof, I'm proof. Oh, there's all these people that have proven that if you believe and trust and have gratitude, you can change your life. And it's all around you. And I ask people to focus on that instead of focus on Googling cancer or Googling this or researching that. Or, and the other thing people do is they're always looking for something else to help them, like the next best supplement, the next healer, the next doctor, the next this, the next voodoo guy, ayahuasca, mushrooms, whatever it is, searching for the answer. And what they're really doing is telling their body it's still sick. Instead of just being in trust that you are, if you said every day, I'm healthy, I'm grateful, I'm healthy, I'm grateful. If you just made that your mantra every day instead of, oh my God, I'm going to die, I have cancer, I'm sick. And then engage in conversation with somebody else that has it, or join a cancer support group, or do all those things that keep that energy going.
Yeah. Oh, I agree
really
about the support groups.
It's really not that difficult. It just is because there's so much outside pressure. The family's pressuring you, the doctor's pressuring you, people are pressuring you to do this, do this, do this. And it's easier to believe to do that, and then you get the consequence. You can be a rebel like you and I are and, come out of it perfectly.
I'm excited for you to meet my mum when you're here because she was that rebel when she was told, your toddler's going to end up with deformities and joint damage if you don't give her this medication. She said, no, we're going to do it our way. And she's the ultimate rebel. You talk about gratitude a lot. Why is gratitude so important?
Um, I think it's one of the most powerful energies you can bring into your body. Gratitude, joy, compassion, and trust, and patience. But,
Mm.
if you're grateful for everything, not just some things, I call it selective gratitude. Every day you're happy for that piece of candy, but you're not happy with the piece of mail you got. So, if you're grateful for everything, it brings more good things your way. It's like it's setting up that energy of health and abundance because gratitude's part of that. If you're not grateful, like I tell people, be grateful for your opinion because the opinion's giving you an opportunity to have something much bigger than it.
Mhm.
And if you're grateful for the opinion, you'll get through it quicker than if you do research or buy into the opinion or all that kind of stuff. So it's an accelerator of health, I think, when you use gratitude.
Mm.
And, like I said, don't be selective about gratitude. Be grateful for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a flat tire and you're late for an appointment, but you don't know what was lying in front of you had you not had that flat tire, right? So be grateful for the flat tire, or, be grateful you missed your flight, or be grateful for this, be grateful for that, everything,
Mm.
because that brings more of that powerful energy to you.
Mm.
So that's why I talk about it all the time.
Mm. Yeah, it is so powerful. What do you say to people like, you know, for example, now in LA, people that have lost their homes, how is it I mean, one thing that my spiritual teacher taught me that I found and it's always the simple things, right? He was like, just say thank you. Whatever happens, just say thank you.
Mhm.
Just say thank you. So like you say, if you got the flat tire, say thank you because you don't know what would have happened had you not. You're not going to know what would have happened had that not have happened. So you just have to trust that it was for the best
Yep.
and say thank you. But what about these people going through, terrible things? You're not just in LA, but all sorts of things happening all over the world.
Well, there's always something to be grateful for. So, for example, maybe your house burned down, but your family's okay.
Mm.
Your dog's okay. Your neighbors are okay. Maybe your house burned down just like I tried to kill myself because I'd lost everything. On the other side of that, there's always something better. And you just have to believe that. I
Mm.
know. I mean, I used to live in LA and I used to live in some of those neighborhoods that, actually the house that was used to film Heal burned down,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and that broke my heart,
Yeah.
Kelly's house. And,
Yeah.
but, there's always a reason for that. And I think, a lot of what's happening is that the world's being reborn. And
Yeah.
yeah, and you don't understand how God does a rebirth. You can't figure it out. You can't plan for it. You can't probably understand it. And it could be terrifying, like these fires, but it's part of a transformation, a rebirth of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there were never supposed to be houses built there. Who knows, right?
Right.
But it's like there's a reason for all this. And, people don't like to hear that, but I always ask them to look for what they're really grateful for, because there's parts of that there is.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I've heard you talk about is the power of emotions and, in terms of how that can affect our bodies and our health. I'm a huge believer in that. And, I've spoken to, lots of experts on the subject and believe in removing emotions from the body. How important is that in kind of from your perspective? How much do you see that in people that's affecting them, over kind of maybe other physical stuff?
Probably 100%.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is that, well, let's back up. So this is what I believe. The moment you're conceived, you've brought forward anything in past lives you haven't dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And you also brought forth your lineage stuff that they hadn't dealt with. And almost all of that's emotional.
Yeah.
That created a dis-ease or a dysfunction. And so emotions sit in very specific parts of the body. They sit in very specific organ systems, and they form, as you know, density. and density forms a blockage, and blockage starts a stagnation. And when your body isn't stagnant, it's like stagnant water that just gets worse by day. You're asking for it. And so to me, it's important that you have a clean path of energy running through your body. So your body is constantly energized, constantly being reborn, constantly being repaired. And so, I can look at somebody, and just by looking at where their densities are, I could almost predict what's going on in their life. It's that apparent to me, and we all have, what I learned a long time ago is that there's no such thing as a bad emotion. We're one of the few species that gets to experience emotion, so that we should be grateful that we can get angry. We should be grateful that we can fall in love, right? But we categorize emotions like, my parents used to say to me, be a big boy, don't get mad. Be a big boy, don't cry. Be a lady, don't yell. Be a lady, don't do this. So we're shoving. And, the law of attraction attracts more of the same. So the more angry you are, the more angry people you attract. I see a lot of people that wonder why they keep attracting the same partner in their life. His name's Bill, the next guy's named John, but they're the same, and except worse, because it keeps building. And so once you clear out these emotions and bring God light, God energy into your body, everything changes. And whether it's a cancer thing or a depression thing or an addiction thing, doesn't matter. To me, it has a base of emotion to it. And when you're conceived, you have all these opportunities in there. It just depends on what you do with your life that feeds those opportunities into a big weed.
What's your process for removing those emotions then?
I just pull them out. So what happens is, if I'm working on you, one of my hands is on your body. It's just, and my hand is like a cosmic vacuum cleaner. It's pulling directly out of your body the density that's creating the outcome. And that immediately is filled with light. So it's like pulling out the junk and filling it with light so it heals. And that's why people feel lightheaded or lighter or empty, or all those things they say. Their eye color changes, their skin color changes, because there's more energy available to them because of the blockages have been removed. Now, obviously, you can't do it all at once because you'd just collapse, so it has to come in stages. But basically that's what I'm doing, is either my hands if I'm touching you, or my hands if I'm not, like right now, I could touch you with my hands and pull stuff out of you. And it just comes out, and then it's replaced by light. It's plumbing. It's very simple.
Tell me about the what do you call it? The fallback? What happens at your events?
The knockdown.
The knockdown.
Yeah, that started probably 10 years ago at Omega. I used to work at Omega a couple times a year, and I was working with people, and I walked by people, and as I walked by, they started falling over. It was pretty weird. And I would try to catch them, which is not good. And so I was asked, why did that happen? My friends upstairs, why did that happen? And they said, because, as you walk by them, we're downloading a lot of light energy into you, which is knocking them over, which is altering their state and putting them in a state of receiving, a state of surrender. And so while they're like almost unconscious on the floor, we can really do deep work with them because they're not present. So then I started so now I walk by and just touch them right here, and people go down. I don't know how it became the knockdown. That's what we call it. But it's really powerful because people, they have visions. They see God. They see somebody who's passed. They see the earth from 100,000 miles up. I mean, people, it's like I gave them ayahuasca or something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're getting worked on by these, hundreds of beings that just surround them and start working. It's like a cosmic car wash that they're going through, and they just feel amazing afterwards. And most people have pretty profound experience, which is
Yeah.
really fun.
But it's amazing because I think for anyone that is even slightly skeptical, to have a physical reaction gives them that instant clarification that, okay, this is, and then from there you can build on the belief.
Exactly.
For someone that is slightly skeptical, they do maybe need that kind of clarification.
Yeah, my hands get really hot when I touch somebody. I've had people pull my hand off of them and put their hand on it and say, "What's in your hand? How did you get your hand so hot?" I'm like,
Wow.
"My hand's not even hot." So they're like, "How'd you do that? You touch me and your hands, I feel your hand, but you take your hand away and it's not hot." And then they start to go, "Oh, there is something going on here." So people are funny.
Why did they choose you?
I don't know. Um, I, I, my opinion is that I've done this many lifetimes. And they've told me I've always been a healer. And so, my process was to start off as one, have a really incredibly difficult life. And then that life taught me compassion and understanding and what it felt like to have this and what it felt like to have that, what it felt like to have this or that, because I had pretty much everything. And I think that I was just destined to do this, but I needed to be trained on the latest and greatest human being, on all the things that we go through.
I wonder what is God to you, from what you've seen and what you've witnessed and what you hear? What is God?
I would just say it's a universal energy of unconditional love. I don't look at God as a male, he or a she or whatever anymore. I look at it as the universe. That's nothing but unconditional love and bliss and joy and compassion. And we've learned to ignore it or not to trust it. But it's always there. It's always been there. It'll always be there. We just get the opportunity to plug in or not.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're coming to London soon, and it would have been great to use this to promote it, but you haven't needed to because you sold out within minutes. And I am so excited. Obviously, I witnessed you in action at Gaia, but this is kind of your own event, over, more hours. So it's going to be profound. And I'm just so excited. I'm bringing my mum, who's even more excited. And I'm just really excited to witness it kind of in person and to observe how it all works.
We had a really funny thing happen at Gaia. I don't know if you saw it or not, but as they were like, how the clock was ticking backwards and they're like, get off the stage, get off the stage. And I was about to leave the stage and this woman ran up out of the audience. I don't know if you remember that, and sat down on one of the chairs.
Yeah.
And she had such a profound healing that she wrote me this long letter. And then,
well, she came back the next day to speak to you, didn't she?
Yeah. And then she brought her mom to my event a couple of weeks ago in Sedona. And, I didn't remember her face, obviously, but she said, "Yeah, I'm the lady who ran up out of the audience. And you changed my life in like 2 minutes."
Wow.
And, she asked Kelly, and I guess she walked up to Kelly and said, "Can I just run up there?" And Kelly said, "Yeah, go ahead."
Oh, Kelly's great.
That's pretty funny.
It's amazing because I think, when I think about what is my intention for doing the episode, which I do that before every episode. What's the intention for this? Because at the end of the day, this podcast is to serve people, to help them on their healing journeys. And like you say, I think we get too far into the information and the detail and the research and the books and the this and the that. And the intention for this episode was really to draw on that innate knowledge, that divine knowledge of, We don't really need all of that. We do it because we don't believe. And actually, it can be so simple. Our healing can be so simple. It's almost making me emotional thinking about it. Like, if we just have that belief and we just draw on that and we see what's right in front of us, that everything in our upbringing has told us not to. But actually, if we just draw on that, healing can be done instantaneously.
And what I say to people all the time is the only difference between me and you, not you, but most
Well, there's
people.
a big difference between me and you.
You know what I mean?
You
But
are definitely very powerful.
the big difference is I have 100% trust and faith that when I ask God to help you, God will help you
Mm,
without any doubt.
mm,
I don't have 98%, I don't have 99%, I have 100%.
mm.
And that's what I say to people, if you can learn to trust and have 100% clarity and trust, it's as easy as that.
Mm.
It's all this stuff we've picked up over lifetimes that have, clogged us up.
Mm.
But it's all about all in. You're either all in or you're not quite all in.
Yeah.
All in is the way to go.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in the details of, yeah, but my situation is really complex because this and that and this and that. And I think what you're saying, and from what I've seen of you, from how you speak, none of it matters. It can be as complex as anything, and you can have multiple conditions or opinions. And, we don't have to focus on that. We can just focus on the healing and trust that it's going to be done.
Right. Because when you believe that you're unique and you're impossible to heal, guess what?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Wish granted, I say that God
Well,
always wish.
I've experienced that myself. Everything that used to happen to me in my childhood, with the opinion that I had, with the arthritis, I was always told, she's really the anomaly, isn't she? These things that are showing up are just, it's so unique how she responds to this or how she responds to that. And there was so many, and then it becomes part of your identity. Yeah, of course that would have happened because I'm the anomaly and those things were going to happen. I had this experience once. And so I had an associated eye condition, which was inflammation in the eye from when I was really, baby. And when I was 18 and everything really kicked off and I ended up in the wheelchair and I lost the sight in my eye because the cataracts were growing like one over the other. And they had to operate on the eye and they couldn't because there was too much inflammation and whatever. So I was at Moorfields Eye Hospital, which is the biggest eye hospital in the UK. And they did this thing called a flare meter reading. And the woman who did it, she was this lovely lady. She really looked after me and she was kind of the head of that department. And she said, Lauren, we've never seen a flare meter reading so high in the history of this hospital. And then that became my thing. All the doctors were like, oh, you're the one who had the highest flare meter reading. And I'm like, yeah, I had the highest flare meter reading ever, and just, off the back of that, for anyone listening, I did have the highest flare meter reading of any eye ever recorded at Moorfields Eye Hospital, and I still healed that condition. That condition hasn't showed up for 11 years. Not one bit of inflammation in the eye. So, there we go. Healing is possible.
Yep.
I have one final question for you, just because it just came to me, and I'm a details person, and it's just interesting. Were your parents still around when you started working in this?
Yes.
And how did they feel about it, based on obviously trying to shut that down in you earlier? And did they have compassion? And were you able to have compassion for where they were coming from?
They had no compassion.
Oh,
They basically disowned me.
oh my goodness.
And I tried to reconnect, but this is a teaching that I do in my classes a lot, is I would show up as who I thought they wanted me to show up as.
Mm.
And one day I thought, you know what, I'm going to show up as who I really am, with my little medicine bag and my little crystal in my pocket or whatever. And it totally changed everything.
Mm.
They just started asking me about who I was healing and all that stuff. And, my mom actually called me when my dad was like 95 and said, your dad's in a lot of pain. Can you come work on him?
Oh, wow.
I almost fell out of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous about it. I'm like, okay. But it got rid of his pain.
Wow.
So at the end of their lives, they they got it, but at first I think it was a shock. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, at least they got to see that and you got to have that experience with them.
they did. And, um, yeah, it was a big teaching for me.
Mm.
My life has been a big teaching for me. So just
Yeah.
as yours has.
Just
Right.
as everyone does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, I'm so grateful for you coming on and making the time for this. And I'm just grateful for your work in general because it is so profound. And I'm grateful to have met you. And this will come out after you've been in London. So I can't wait for that. Where can people find you if they want to come to your event?
Just simply my website, which is robwergin.com. So just my name, Rob, WERGIN.com.
Perfect.
Still a couple seats left. We added a day in London, as you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a couple seats left. But
Yeah. Those will be sold.
probably by the time you and I hang up here.
100%, yeah. Well, I know some people that want them as well, so I'm going to get on the phone as soon as we get off of here. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thanks. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Reconditioned. I am honestly so grateful to each and every person that tunes in. Thank you also for taking responsibility for your own well-being. You should know that just by choosing to listen to podcasts like this that further your well-being, you're moving more deeply into abundance consciousness. Now, don't forget, I have a bunch of free resources over at laurenvakneen.co.uk, as well as every recommendation you could ever need in regards to your well-being on the LV Recommends page, all categorized for your ease. Thank you also to our sponsors. These episodes would not be possible without them, so make sure to check them out and get some pretty awesome discounts on the show notes. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get updated each time a new one is released. Thank you. I appreciate you.